Welcome to Beyond the Chutes, is presented by Parasite Systems. I'm your host, Doug Simcox, and I hope that you're having a great day, staying safe, and enjoying your preparations for the upcoming holidays. Today I'm recording in Taylorsville, Kentucky, and with us today on the phone is Miss Danna Gann, a pro rodeo secretary and owner of the Bar V Rodeo Company. Now we're going to be asking Danna about her childhood, growing up, finding rodeo or high school rodeo and pro rodeo careers. And this is going to be a rare look behind the scenes. If you've seen Wizard of Oz, it's like that. When they pull the curtain back, she makes it all happen behind the scenes. She pulls all the levers and makes all the gears go round and round. Danna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It is a blast. You know, when we started talking about doing this show, of course, a lot of the impetus of the show is out of the Northeast, New York, and that sort of thing. And one of my favorite pictures that's hanging on the wall is a picture that was taken in Benton, Pennsylvania in 2010, you and I in the announcer stand. It's one of my favorite pictures, as I just said.
Yes, sir. I love those days. Wish you were still there. I haven't been in a couple of years to Benton, but I wish we were doing it again.
Absolutely. That was always a blast. And in a bit, and a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk a little bit about some of those experiences in the booth. You probably got a lot to share. But I want to tell our listeners what a great help you were as we went through those shows. It is always so much going on. And like I said, you pull a lot of levers, turn a lot of gears, and make it run super smoothly. Let's start kind of at the beginning, if that's all right, Danna. Let's talk about growing up in Arkansas. Where in Arkansas? What was your childhood like?
Well, I was born in Arkansas. My sister and I, Vanessa, we're Army brats, so we were raised in various different places: Albuquerque, New Mexico, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, mainly in Nolanville, Texas. My dad was stationed at Fort Hood, so we were there a lot. So I was raised a little bit of everywhere. When my dad was deployed, we would always come back home to Arkansas, where my mother's family was, and my dad's family. We would always come back home for his long deployments. I actually lost him during the Vietnam conflict in 1969, and my mom had the task of raising my sister and I alone.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sister Vanessa, just you and Vanessa.
Just Vanessa and I, yes, sir.
And you were on a farm at that point when your mom said, let's get on with this?
Yes, sir. We were actually we had a house in Little Rock, is where, like when I was born, that's where we lived, and then we had that the whole time. But after my dad got killed, we actually moved back to my mother's farm in Cabot, Arkansas, where she was raised.
Okay.
My mother bought 5 acres of it, and we went back there.
Okay. Well, first, let me say this. Thank you for your father's service in the military. And
yes, sir.
Sorry for that loss. You were 9 years old at the time, if my calcs are right.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And so Cabot, Arkansas, pulling everything back together. Your mother, a single mother at this point, a widow, and saying, no, we're going to get on with this. We are going to keep rodeoing. And tell a little bit about that.
Well, I can never remember a time in Vanessa and I's life which she's 3 years older than I am, but I can never remember a time in our life where horses were not involved, and they went wherever we went. We always, no matter where we were living at the time, my mom and dad made sure we had pastures for our horses. I can remember rodeoing in Belton, Texas. Just anywhere we were, we always had our horses. And that was important to my mother once my dad was killed, that we continued on being able to live our life with these horses. And we horse showed as kids, then, which led into rodeoing as Vanessa and I got older. And, my mother was raised in it. We were raised in it. So it just came natural for, all of my family, cousins, everybody, we were always involved with horses.
Yeah. Okay. So horse shows as kids, so barrels, poles, that sort of thing?
Yes, sir. All of that. Went to the National High Call finals in the pole bending.
Okay.
Branched out to riding bulls and bareback horses.
Now, wait a minute.
Did my mother in.
Wait a minute. Back up. So high school barrel racer, pole bender, got that. But then you said something about riding bareback broncs and bulls?
Yes, sir. Actually. Yes, sir, I did.
How? So explain that just a little bit for our listeners.
Well, Arkansas had an all-girls rodeo that was very prominent back in the day. And it was just every girl at rodeo in Arkansas wanted to go to the all-girl rodeo. And I did that and rode bareback horses and rode bulls. My mom said she would never watch me. I actually have a picture of her in Hope, Arkansas, where I'm on a bareback horse and she's in the bleachers behind. She is definitely watching with her hands up, hollering for me. So I know she did watch me.
Yeah.
But it was some of my stupid years.
Okay.
That I did that.
And any injuries from that? Anything that stands out about broncs or the bulls that really caught your attention?
No, I'm just never hurt. I mean, you got sore and you had bruises. Lord, I've had to have my shins scraped from hitting barrels and all of that stuff that us girls that or anybody that rodeos has, the normal little injuries that come along with what we do.
Sure. And you qualified for the National High School Finals Rodeo 4 years in the pole bending.
No, sir.
No.
I only qualified my senior year.
Oh, your senior year. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And what do you remember about that experience? First off, where did you go? Was it in Wyoming, the finals?
No, sir.
No.
So we were in Sulphur Springs, Louisiana. I
Okay.
actually didn't get to go very far from home.
Okay.
It was very warm.
Yeah.
The alligators, all that. But we were in Sulphur Springs, Louisiana in 1976.
Oh, wow.
The National High School Finals.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And along about that time, if I'm not mistaken, you met Orville and Faye Donaldson.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about
did.
Orville and Faye.
Oh, my gosh. Orville and Faye are they are historic to the sport of rodeo. Anybody that lives in southeastern Oklahoma knows who the Donaldsons are, Ringo, Oklahoma. But they owned the 44 Bar Rodeo Company, and I was actually secretary in rodeos for the G-Bar H Rodeo Company, which was Gann and Howard here. And Faye had asked me to come and do some rodeos for her. And my first rodeo that I secretaried for them was an IFYR rodeo in Idabel, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I have never had such a rude awakening in my entire life.
Okay.
As to,
What stands out?
Kiamichi Mountains.
To do what?
I said the Kiamichi Mountains of Oklahoma.
Okay. So when we say a young age, how old were you when you did that, Danna?
Oh, I'm going to think, oh, Lord. I probably 1920.
Okay. And you had a bit of experience from G-Bar H prior to that?
Yes, sir.
And so when did you start with G-Bar H?
Oh, probably 1977.
Okay.
I want to say.
So 17, 18 years old?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so they took you under your wing. They taught you how to do it. They gave you here's a rodeo secretary instruction manual, everything you need to know.
Well, actually, a girl here in Arkansas, Rhonda Mitchell, she was the secretary for the Arkansas Rodeo Association. I went to her house one night and she showed me everything I needed to know.
Oh, wow.
Spent time with me, helped me out, and I was on my own from there, and it was a lot different then than it is now. A whole lot different. So call-ins were...
Yeah, so for our listeners, the call-ins, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but back then there was no computers. There were no computers. They had a phone number. They gave you a time of the day that the books would open, and they were going to call directly in and speak to you.
They would call in, say if the rodeo was Friday, Saturday, usually Monday night, say from 6 to 10, we would have a call in. And they would call, and back then it was a first come, first serve. So the people was really on the phone dialing, that 100 dials to get into you because they wanted to be some of your first phone calls. So they would get their preference as to Friday or Saturday. And it was something. Also, and where I lived, we had a party line. So on Monday morning, you had to call everybody on your party line and say, hey, look, tonight the phones are really going to be tied up. I'm sorry. And, which luckily the three neighbors took that very well.
They did okay with that. And for our listeners, describe what a party line is.
Well, back then, it was a party line, and there was 4 families on one line, and you had a different ring in each house that knew, when the phone rang, if it was a one quick ring, you knew it was yours, 2 quick, whatever the ring was, you knew it was that they're calling me, and that was called a party line. And that I'm that old.
Yeah. And when you pick up the phone, my memory was when you pick up the phone, there might be somebody on there already talking.
Yes, sir. Like if you went to use the phone, you could pick it up and somebody's conversation was going on. And we had a neighbor, Miss Bailey, bless her little heart. And sometimes you would have to say, Miss Bailey, I know you're listening to me.
Yeah.
And you could hear the phone click up, hang up. But yeah.
Different meaning. For a party line, different meaning back then than maybe today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what's been great is we talked to Dale Yerrigan, we talked to Mike Swearingen, and all of them talk about traveling up and down the road before there were computers and you had to call in, and they would stop at a truck stop and they would start dialing on the payphones, and they're calling you to get entered in a rodeo.
Yes, sir. And it was something. And Dale and I've had this conversation before, but you would get you would get all those phone calls and say in the steer wrestling, let's use Dale in the steer wrestling, they say like, I don't know. Other steer wrestlers would gripe because Dale Yerrigan, he always gets what he wants. Well, out of the first 10 phone calls, 7 of them were probably out of Dale's truck.
Right.
Everybody, if you went down the road with Dale, you went someplace and called in. Everybody and family and everybody called in. So they took care of their business and they called in. And so a lot of times, Dale got his preferences because for his, and which we still had rules then about how many you could take per phone call and how many you could take per event. And we had guidelines then. Some secretaries went by them, some didn't. And, that's just the way it was. But it was a nightmare. And then say the books closed at 10 o'clock and at 11 and midnight, your phone was still ringing because people didn't abide by that. Now I'm like, I missed the books. Can I still get in? And it was a nightmare. Thank God Central Entry finally came into play.
Yeah. And that's not been really that long ago, has it? What, last 10, 15 years?
Oh, no. Surely it's been longer than that.
Is it? Are you sure?
Yeah. Okay. Rodeo Sports Network originally started taking the IFYRA's entries, and it was way more than 10 or 15 years ago because, it was probably closer to 20 years ago. But
okay.
Thank God. In fact, when they did, I told Rob, my son, because we had a rodeo company, I said, I will never take another call in. I'm just telling you right now that if you do rodeos that are not using the central entry system, you will be taking the call in. I will not take them. Yeah. So.
And if I were to call you at 11 o'clock when the books close at 10, might I get on a list that I shouldn't be on?
No, not usually. And to be honest with you, and that's the sad part is nowadays you're gonna take horse riders, whether that be the bareback riding or the saddlebarn riding, you're taking them up till the time the rodeo starts.
Right.
But back then we had plenty. We had enough to fill an event and to have a good performance and stuff. So no, usually And to be honest with you, back then we weren't attached to our phones like we are now. So I'm liable to unplug the phone,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right after or something like that. But it would be the next day and the next day and the next day. They're still calling.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss the books. Please do me a favor.
Yeah. Or I need to trade out or something like that. Okay.
Yes. And really, back then, Doug, people didn't really know what trades were. I mean, they didn't know that you could do that. And now that's a common practice.
Oh, okay. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you for that. And you mentioned Rob, your son. Tell us a little bit about Rob.
Oh, Rob, he just had a birthday last week and makes me feel really old. He turned 44, but that's all he's ever known is rodeo. I mean, was driving out cattle when he was very small.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Burris talks to me all the time about that little boy that shagged bulls.
Mm-hmm.
But he, in fact, he started furnishing calves for Orville. Oh. Well, really, it was Chalk. Rob told Chalk one day that his calves were sucked or something like that. And Chalk says, well, if you can put a set of calves together, I'll lease them from you. And by doggies, that's what he did. And, who had to haul him up and down the road is his mother. But he put a set of calves together. But he was picking up.
Okay.
For them when he was young. And now he is, he has been selected to fight bulls at the IFYR several times. Mm-hmm. He just finished the Prairie Circuit finals in the PRCA. Is a funny man. I am super proud of him, of what he's done, what he's accomplished, and where he's going. And he has two of the most beautiful little girls you've ever seen.
Okay, absolutely. No, I've been following him, absolutely. Barrelman at the IFR, bullfighters, and now the Prairie Circuit. Very, very cool. Yes, you used the term he was picking up.
Yes, sir.
Can you describe a little bit what that is? Some of our rodeo listeners or some of our listeners are just learning some of these details.
Gotcha. Well, the pickup man is the safety man for the bareback riders and the bronc riders. Mm-hmm. And they go in when the ride's complete, they go in and get the guy off the horse. Mm-hmm. Or when the wreck happens, they're the ones that rope the horse, get the horse stopped, do all of that. But they're also the guy that's out there watching every calf run and helping get that barrel horse in when the barrel horse won't come up the alley and stuff. But they're just and then he learned from he started picking up with Ben Jordan and then Benny Jordan and Chalk Donaldson and Benny Wayne Donaldson, and they all taught him very well. And, when he first went up to Sam's, that's one of the things he did for Sam. And Sam's like, Danna, this guy needs to be picking up. I said, well, that's not what his really interest is in, but he is a very good horseman.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that he did about fighting bulls. He fought bulls so well because he had bull savvy. He was just smart, and that's the way he is was picking up. He has a lot of horse savvy. But the pickup man they're the two most underrated guys out there. And the horses and the everything it takes for them to get down the road is just,
absolutely.
They're so underrated.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. And I like the term horse savvy. And you talked about you being raised with horses. Now, Rob was raised all the way through with horses. Grandchildren are being raised with horses as well?
Yes, sir. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Rob kind of breaks into the rodeo stock contracting business by saying you need a new set of calves, right? Yes, tells Chalk that. Chalk says, go get them. Right? Yep. And that was kind of the beginning. And you guys hauled calves up and down the road. Rob is picking up at this point, hauling calves. You are doing secretarial duties?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the 44 Bar Rodeo Company, Orville and Faye Donaldson's company, came available, and you guys purchased that.
Right. Well, at the time that we purchased it, Faye and Orville had actually, Chalk and Kelly Donaldson, their oldest son, had actually him and Kelly were the owners of record at that point of of the rodeo company.
Okay.
And Chalk just come to me one day and he said, Danna, he was very involved in the PBR at that time. It was just getting rolling. And he said, I'm really wanting to, I'd like to sell, and, I would like to sell it to you and Rob. I want to give you all the first offer on it. And so we had many, many discussions about it at the supper table and all that. And I think it was 2004, Doug, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I think it was 2004 when we actually purchased the rodeo company from them.
And that's a big investment, and that's a big time investment, because now you got to promote that side of the business.
Yes.
And you renamed it the Bar V Rodeo Company?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about those early years. And for our listeners, what came with the purchase? Not money. I don't care about the amount of money. But what came for the purchase, with the purchase, I should say, some of the equipment and so forth?
Right. Well, I know there was one, a bull wagon or a pod or a cattle trailer, whatever you want. There was, I don't even remember the amount of horses, bucking horses, and the amount of bulls that came with it, and several of the contracts for rodeos that he already had, established, and so that's what came with it.
Okay. And when we talk about contract,
a lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work. I was going to say, and how many rodeos were you trying to do a year? And again, you're balancing this with everything else going on in your lives.
Yes, sir. Lord, Doug, I guess I should have done my homework a little bit better. We did a lot.
You did a lot.
We did many rodeos a year, many. And I can't, to be honest with you, I really can't tell you how many rodeos we did. We did a lot. We were heavily involved in the Arkansas Rodeo Association and the IFYR. So, we did a lot of rodeos, but I honestly couldn't tell you exactly how many. And be truthful with you. I can't.
Okay. So how long you still have the Bar V Rodeo Company?
Yes, sir. We do. It got to the point where we were like, I was making nothing because I was, every once in a while I would go off and secretary for somebody else, but I was, Rob and I basically at our rodeos, I secretaried, my sister worked, Rob worked, everybody in our family worked. And when we got through, by the time we paid everybody, we were lucky to have anything.
Yeah.
And so and then here in Arkansas, down here, different than it is up there in the Northeast, everybody has a rodeo company. Everybody's putting on rodeos. There's a rodeo every week. There's a rodeo every night. And it got to where we couldn't stay competitive, and they were bidding rodeos for what we paid our personnel.
Oh, wow.
And Rob and I just decided, we don't need practice at this. We don't need to. We can make more money if we go off and work for other people. Okay. And it just kind of really slowed down. Okay. We just slowed down here. Yes, we still have bucking horses out in the pasture. Rob still leases them, but it is not our primary thing anymore. But we still have the rodeo company. Yes, sir.
And still got horses and livestock that you've got to take care of every day, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And when you say leasing them, that's leasing them to other stock contractors. They may call up and say, bring me 5 broncs.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have bulls or just broncs, just horses? Right
we
now?
have, I think, I'm going to be honest on this. Right now, to my knowledge, which they're out here in front of the house right now, but we have one bucking bull that's on our cows. We have beef cows, and he's on our cows. And I know we have a couple of young bulls that Rob and I talked about here a little bit ago that we need to buck and see if they're going to do anything and go on with their. But it's just something that he's not interested in anymore. And so we don't. We just have bulls that are covering cows right now.
Okay. And your weeks right now, your weekends, I should say right now, both you and Rob, you're gone, right? You're off somewhere.
Right. And not just our weekends, but, here, what, 2, 3 weeks ago, Rob and I were gone for 2 weeks.
Okay.
We went, and where we were up in the Northeast, and we went and did one, and then instead of driving all the way home and spend 1 day home and then go back, we stayed up in the Northeast.
Okay. And for our listeners, and we'll get into a little bit more detail of what the whole week looks like, but how many hours a week would you say, when it's busy, and this includes travel, this includes everything, how many hours a week would you say you are spending in rodeo?
Oh, my goodness, because especially, it's not like it was when we used to take the books, because we would take the call in and you type up all your books and you'd make all your copies, you type your day sheets, you would get everything ready. Now we say that. Let's just go with the rodeo I just did in Newberry, Florida. Mm-hmm. It was a PRCA rodeo, so that I worked a week on it almost before I ever got to the rodeo.
Oh, wow.
Because Procom takes all the entries, then they send you all the information, and then you print everything, and then you have to go in and you build day sheets and you do all that. So for a second, and then your job's not over.
Right.
Because you have the rodeo, and then when it's over, at an IPRA rodeo, you take all of those entries, you work the rodeo by hand, what I call by hand, not in a computer, right yet. That's fixing to change, but you're working the rodeo, you pay it off, and then you have to send everybody that it was not there to pick up a check, you have to send that money out. So you have to get all that money, fix it, get where it goes, how it's going to go, send it off, and make sure everybody gets it. So for a 2-day rodeo, I'm spending 4 or 5 days out of that week on that rodeo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of work goes into that rodeo.
A lot of work goes in. So preparing day sheets. So let me ask a question. How far ahead do you schedule your rodeos? Right now, do you know 2024?
I know a big portion of 2024. Yes, sir.
Okay. And
I've got a pretty full schedule for 2024 already.
Okay.
And I have phone calls every week asking me to come do, can you do this or can you do that?
And
yes,
the
sir.
rodeo stock contractor calls you typically?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The rodeo stock contractor that's 95% of the time is who will call me. There's a few committees that I work for, like no matter what stock contractor goes in, I'm going to get to work that rodeo because of my relationship with the committee. But the stock contractor calls me. We negotiate a price, and either I will or I won't. And you negotiate whether a room is involved, whether it's not. Because I don't have a trailer or I travel in a Volkswagen Atlas and go. So whether they're furnishing me a place to stay or what, we negotiate all that, and that's how it got started for that rodeo.
Okay, and then no doubt the contractor calls you and says, hey, I've got a 4-week run.
Yes, sir.
You come up, you get to hang out in one territory, maybe one state, but we've got 4 rodeos in, maybe a weekend or a weekday rodeo piled in there, but we can give you a good solid 4-week run, which means you're not traveling crazy. That's got to have some influence on your decision making.
It's got to have it's a very big decision, which in the last, 13, 14 years, I have spent 3 to 4, sometimes almost 5 months in Pennsylvania, New York, that area up there, rodeoing in the Northeast. Ever since 2010, there's been times that I would fly home, I would fly back for Shawnee, or I would fly home for this, but there's been times when I would see Rob maybe occasionally because we would actually get to work a rodeo together, but there would be times when I did not see my family for 3-4 months.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the week, and we're going to talk a little bit about 2010 in here in just a moment when the decision was made to go full time. So typical rodeo week. You talked about day sheets and getting everything ready to go. Books are open. You don't have a big amount of work there, but based on the books and the entries, you produce those day sheets you talked about. And the day sheets for our listeners, those are by event, let's say the bareback bronc riding, and here are the cowboys or rodeo athletes are going to be competing in the bareback riding on a Friday night, on the Saturday night, on the Sunday night. Have I described the day sheet
Yes, sir.
Correctly? Okay.
Yes, sir, and they will be in the order of events so that you as an announcer or funny man can take that and go and, Yes, sir.
Okay, so you travel in. We're going to get into some travel stories here in a bit. You arrive at the rodeo, and what do you do when do you typically get a Friday night rodeo? It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night rodeo, all single sanction, let's say. And I know there's some complexity there where we may get into co-sanctions. We may get into like Benton where they actually run 3 individual events on that weekend. But at a typical rodeo, you show up, Friday night show, when do you typically show up on the grounds?
Well, if it's a distance that I feel like that if anything happened as far as me driving, I'll always get there the day before.
Okay.
And not necessarily, if it's a stock contractor that I've never worked for, I definitely want to get there the day before and get in and get what they expect, how they want this to roll, when do they sort, when do they want sort cards, how, do we set pins? And I know all that is, I'm talking gibberish right now to a lot of people, but it's all in what they want to, how they run their rodeo. But I will be, say like if the rodeo starts at 8, I'm going to be on the grounds working no later than 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
No later.
4 o'clock.
Yes. If it's an 8 o'clock rodeo, I'm going to give myself 4 to 5 hours on the grounds. They're working, having everything set up and working on it before before the rodeo ever starts.
Okay.
Because I'm going to have to collect all of my at an IPRA or an APRA up there rodeo, I'm going to have to get all of my livestock, all of my saddle bronc, my bareback, my bulls, the tie down calves. I got to get all of those numbers, collect them all. At a PRCA rodeo, the rough stock's drawn for me, but I've got to get all of those cattle numbers, and get them sorted to know so that I can start a draw. And like I said, if, we've got 15 calves for the tie-down roping, but we're only running 10 during the performance. Do you want a pin, or am I going to draw out 10? And this is the pin, so you can sort them before we actually draw. All that stuff it's just working with those stock contractors. Like Sam, I didn't need to ask Sam every time what I was going to do because I knew exactly I could run Sam's, because I knew exactly how Sam worked and what he was going to do. And stuff like that. And
the draw, for our listeners, all livestock is drawn at random for the timed event cowboys, calf ropers, steer wrestlers, team ropers, and all the broncs and bulls are drawn at random. The stock contractor, and we talked a little bit about this with Sam, he will set a pin. He'll say, here are the 5 broncs I've got. Let's say you got 4 bronc riders on an evening. Here's 5 or 6 broncs that I want to put in the draw this evening. Right?
Yes, sir.
And then he leaves, basically, because then the judges come in and they actually literally draw out of a bucket. How do they do it?
Yes, sir. And that's a thing where I know, like in the IPRA, you can set your pins. In the PRCA, you can set your pins. In the APRA up there, you cannot set your pins. You can feature up to half your herd, but you can't set your pins.
Okay.
So that's something that me as a secretary, I have to know the rules of what association I'm in, which the stock contractor knows the rules of the association he is in. So you actually have chips for those animals, poker chips, and you build those poker chips to each animal. And when it comes time to draw in the timed events, you have to keep runs on the cattle even. So if the rodeo starts on Friday night and we're going to draw out, we have 15 calves. We're going to draw 10 calves out. Okay, so there's 5 calves sitting there that have not been run. Those 5 calves have to run before we can go back and run any of those 10.
Okay, so
you have to keep your runs even on your cattle.
Okay.
And it can get into being a very in-depth thing on these bigger rodeos. And but you cannot run one calf twice before you run one once.
Mm-hmm.
Or a bulldog and steer, team rope and steer. You can't do any of that. So you have to keep all of that. Mm-hmm. I'm keeping up with all of that.
I was going to say.
And making sure that those runs are even and stuff. It is the judge's responsibility, but the secretary is the one that's taking care of it. At a PRCA rodeo, the PRCA judges have run sheets, but I keep that run sheet in the IFYR and the APRA, but the judge is always sitting there looking at it and knowing that, yep, she's got her runs even. We're good to go.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing all the paperwork. Everything comes down to your record keeping with regard to, has everything run the way it's supposed to run? We've got to run all those 15 calves in your example before we can draw for the next, to finish up maybe that round on Saturday night.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And go ahead.
It's the same way in the rough stock. I mean, if Bar 55 has been the re-ride on Saturday night, he can't be the re-ride Sunday. So the secretary still got to that can't be the re-ride. We have to have a different re-ride. Or, you also have to make sure that those runs are staying correct on those buck and stock too. Mm-hmm. And that they're, that if something's not been bucked and it's in your herd, it has to be bucked before something else can be bucked.
You bet.
And stuff.
So in addition, 4 hours before the rodeo, you're setting pens, you're getting your draw, you're handing that stock contractor so he can go off and build his pens and get everything kind of organized. But then the cowboys, the cowgirls, the rodeo athletes show up with their money. Talk a little bit about so what's that look like?
Well, we actually do still take money at the rodeos, but I have all my books laid out there, and they come up and they start paying their entry fees. And some of them are entered in multiple events, some of them are just one event, but they pay their entry fees. Mm-hmm. And that entry fee entails to me, an entry fee is actually what goes into the payoff. Mm-hmm. And then you have a stock charge that you collect on top of that. And then you have a office type fee, which it's not really an office fee because I don't get it, but so much goes to the people that took the call-ins.
I see.
Like now in IPRA, that's next gen, they get so much. And then there's so much of that money that's a finals fee that actually goes towards the finals that they pay. And you separate all that money out before you pay it off.
Okay. And then in addition to the entry fee, as we head towards the payoff, you also have added money.
Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about that, where that comes from, how that fits into all this.
Okay. Every rodeo is different, used to be really small added money rodeos. Now it's, you don't have a lot of rodeos that are very small anymore. Most of them are larger, 1,000 or more added and stuff. But the committee puts a purse together that is an incentive to bring those contestants to their rodeo. Mm-hmm. So they add money and then they are responsible for that purse. If it's at a rodeo where I'm doing the payoff at the rodeo, the committee will bring me that money in cash.
I see.
And, so that I have that money because I have to have the money to pay people off.
So on the payoff, now that's going to be based on how I might have finished in the order, where I am in the standings. Let's say I'm number 2 in the money. Right?
Yes, sir.
You're going to pay me cash or you're going to write me a check? What typically happens?
Oh, at typical APRA, IPRA rodeos, I'm going to pay you cash.
Okay.
If you paid me cash, and contestants nowadays do have the option of paying their fees online. But I still, at that rodeo, I'm going to pay them in cash if they're there to collect their money. If they're not, I'm going to send them a check or a money order, all depends on where I'm at. but I'm gonna mail them their money later in either a check or a money order form.
Okay. And with all the technology and everything is coming, we'll talk a little bit about that. Rodeo Logistics, purchase the IFYR. We know all about we're learning about the computer software there. Do you think you're going to get to a place where you won't handle cash?
Oh, Lord, I hope so. I so hope so that is coming. We still handle cash in the PRCA.
Oh, you do?
Yes, we still do there. Not as much as we do at any other rodeo because we don't have to pay off a PRCA rodeo. That's actually paid to their rodeo pay account from the office. We don't pay it off. Any cash that's collected there, I have to forward to the, PRCA.
Okay.
But yes, I hope and pray that we are coming to the point where they're paying their fees somehow or another online, and they are collecting their winnings somehow or another online.
Okay. And in addition to paying off there at the rodeo, you got cowboys, cowgirls that competed Friday, and you don't know who won the rodeo till close of business on Sunday. What do you typically do with their winnings?
Well, some of them, if they will tell me, hey, and up there it's really prominent. The Canadians come down, and it's very hard to get them their money back. The Canadians may say, hey, hold on to my money until I see you the next time. I've held on to some of their money till I saw them at the IFR, and they knew that when they got to the IFR, they were going to have that cash to spend, there. But typically, sometimes they will have somebody that's at the rodeo on Saturday night pick them up, but they have to tell me that. Just because Doug can't come to me and say, hey, I'm here to pick up Sam's money. If Sam didn't tell me Doug's picking it up, I'm not going to give it to Doug.
I see.
But I get home and I send them a check, or up there I have to send out money orders. The United States Postal Service has my picture on file. They know I'm putting that money in, and I'm buying money orders.
Okay.
And I send them out their money.
Okay.
And it's very important to me. I try to get it out Monday morning. I am getting their money to them as fast as I can possibly get it to them.
Okay, perfect. And then in addition to sending the competitors that weren't there to pick up the money at the end of the final show, you're also writing other checks, sending in association fees and all the other things that you've collected through the weekend.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I am sending whatever association I am with, I am sending them their sanction fees, their finals fees, their whoever took the entry fees. I'm sending all of that in to them with the results. And most all of us now are to the point where within 24 hours of the last performance of the rodeo, we are somehow or another getting that association their results, whether it be a scan. I scan everything and send to them, but somehow or another we are getting those associations, those results, so that they have them. And then whether we have to put it in the mail, if I send anything, I send it priority mail, but somehow or another, we're getting them those results.
Okay. And what I've noticed when we work together on the final show, the evening of the final show, once the bareback riding is done and known, you already start maybe filling out your payout sheet.
When an event's over, I'm paying it off.
Yep.
And that's something that I know a lot of secretaries will not pay off the rodeo until the complete rodeo is finished. That's not me. When they buck that last horse, start heading to the announcer stand because I want to get rid of the bareback riding.
I see.
So I am the type of secretary that I am, and we do have a payoff system in the computer that Lee Woodside built for us years ago, and I absolutely dearly love it. But I have it, I have everybody in there, and then say up there in that country, if Tim Kent's the last one and he placed, here he come, well then I just type Tim Kent out and it takes that last guy out. And I hit the button, bam, I'm ready to pay off the bareback riding.
You're ready to calculate.
As soon as I know everybody that's paid, I figure my payoff right then. I'm not that secretary that does that in advance. Oh, this rodeo says we have got 60 teams. I'm going to figure the team roping. And then, you have 3 no-shows and you have to go back and refigure it. I do not figure a payoff until I know exactly how many paid entries I had in there.
Okay.
But each secretary does that different, and that's great.
Okay.
You do yours, I'll do me, and
for sure.
we get it all figured out. But yes, Doug, I am, when it's over, I'm ready. You know, and as you as an announcer, I should be able to tell you so-and-so won the bareback riding, or, you know, is the winner of the bareback riding.
You bet. You bet. You bet. I remember those days and really, really, really appreciated all that. So it sounds like you got to be a CPA to do quite a bit of this work. You got to be an accountant, right?
Well, you know, I'm not. I'm very good at math. I can add, you know, 2 + 2 is 4. And, you know, this Common Core about threw me off for a few years ago because I couldn't help my granddaughters with math. And I'm like, you know, 2 and 2 is 4. I don't care what are you. But I do know math, and I am good at math, but it just takes common sense. You know, I have guys all the time that call me, and they have this girl. He wants her to start secretary in a rodeo. She works at the bank. She'll be really good at it. Well, no, she's not going to be good at it because she doesn't know rodeo.
Right.
But it's, yes, you have to be good at math, but you have to have common sense.
Okay.
Period.
Okay. And probably some people skills, I'm guessing.
Oh, yes, sir.
So before we get into the people skills of things, talk a little bit about books always balance when you're done?
Oh, that mine doer, it drives me nuts. I remember the first rodeo I come up there and did with Sam. I don't pay off to the nearest I pay off to the nearest dollar. So if it's below 50 cents, I go that way, and if it's over, I pay off up. So usually my rodeos are about $3 either short or $3 over.
Okay.
It all depends.
Okay.
Well, if they're $10 short or $10 over, it drives me insane until I figure out, where did I make that mistake?
Yeah.
Where is it? I balance, and I keep going and back. I remember the first time Sam came in there and he says, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm off like $2 or something. He said, "Danna, I'll give you the $2." I'm like, no, that's not the point. I've got to figure out, where did I put somebody's cents wrong or something like that. It drives me nuts if I don't balance. I have to balance.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool. And no big times when we we have a problem. Nothing?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I mean, Lord. Yeah, I've been doing this for what, 40-something years? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There are times when you're like, oh, my God, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll have to, you know, you call somebody that's or you put it all down and you walk away from it and you just walk away and you go, you know, feed, or you do whatever, and then you come back in and you sit down, and it's a whole different, you look at it totally different. But oh Lord, yes, there has been times when it has been that this past year, and even me still day, I paid the team roping at cow camp at McBain, Michigan, which is one of my favorite rodeos of all time. I paid the team roping off wrong. Well, I can't balance, and then I figure out, oh my gosh, I paid the team roping off wrong. So immediately I'm calling Booger and all them guys and saying, guys, I paid it off. You know, I put $1,000 too much in it because I just put $2,000 instead of $1,000 aside and stuff like that. But I make mistakes. And so anybody tells you they don't mistakes, they are lying to you. I make mistakes. And you know, that guy that comes up and, you know, you have them, and I know I'm not stupid, but there's guys that are really scared to come on the announcer stand and question the payoff with me.
Yeah.
Don't do that. If you think that there is something wrong with that payoff, please walk to the announcer stand and say, hey, Danna, let's recheck this, because I will never, ever get mad at you.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. I will say, okay, I'm right, but thank you. Yeah. Thank you for questioning it before you got home.
Absolutely.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Because if you make a mistake.
And then there's those guys that come up and say, hey, Danna, I think the payoff's wrong. And you know it's wrong because you know they know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know they know.
Well, thank goodness they're still on the grounds when that happens, right? So you're not trying to claw this money back.
Yes. I'm still trying to collect money from McBain. So, yeah.
And one other thing I want to throw in, you know, in my example, you had a Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night show, right? But typically you got slack in there, at least one round of slack, right?
Yes, sir.
And for our listeners, describe what slack is, when that might actually run. So I'm just showing how much of your time is devoted to rodeo over that weekend.
Yes, sir. Slack is when you have more contestants than it takes to put on a performance.
Mm-hmm.
You never want to bore the people that are sitting up there watching a rodeo with too much rodeo. You want to make it entertaining and them to see everything, but you don't want them sitting there watching 40 barrel racers or, 60 teams. You don't want them doing that. So everything that's over, say 10, 12, a performance is called slack.
Mm-hmm.
Some slacks are designated, which means if we have more than we need at this rodeo, we're going to have slack on Thursday night before the rodeo starts on Friday. Or we're going to have it Friday morning or Saturday morning. That's designated. If not, your slack runs after your performances.
Mm-hmm.
Most stock contractors will, when they set their rodeo up, will set it up to not have slack on the very last performance.
Yeah.
So you can have slack any other performance, but no slack on Sunday night.
I see.
Or Saturday night, wherever your rodeo ends.
Yeah.
So, and it all depends on how that rodeo is set up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you have, a fair or something going on afterwards where they don't want the people staying up there watching, they want them on the midway, or they want them at the dance, buying beer, or they want them someplace spending money, they have a designated slack where we have it in the morning or something like that.
Okay.
Most stock contractors don't want to do that because that's another paid performance for their personnel.
Okay, yeah. So they'll just extend, let's say it's a Friday night. They say we're going to run slack after the first performance. So 11 o'clock, be here, we're going to run the overflow.
Yes, sir.
And it might run till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, sir. There have been times at Attica, New York, where I barely laid down just enough to get it be a little bit more stupid because I got just a little bit of sleep, and then right back at it again because Attica has day performances and and stuff. But because there's so many, Attica is a very big rodeo with lots of contestants. Everybody comes there. The Canadians come down. Rob Wright has worked very hard to put a lot of added money at that rodeo, and so he does have a lot of contestants. But those slacks have been so big. I remember one year at Attica. I announced the slack there, but I remember one morning I went over they have breakfast for us, and they went over, and I said I would like, and which people think I talk funny up there anyhow, so because I am from the South,
right?
But the guy, I told him what I wanted for breakfast, and the guy looked at him, and he said, "Oh my God, it's you," and I looked at him, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, he said, "I heard your voice all night talking."
During this slack.
He said, "I wanted you to shut up so bad." Well, it was me announcing the slack.
You bet.
Yes.
And some of the complexities, you kind of alluded to this, Benton, when we did Benton, they did a wonderful thing for the competitors. They actually broke it up into 3 separate individual rodeos. If my memory's correct, it was Thursday, Friday was a rodeo. Right? Mm-hmm. And Saturday was its own standalone rodeo. And then Sunday night, they would have bulls and broncs and that sort of thing. Again, its own rodeo. So you've got slack for the Thursday, Friday crowd. You've got slack for the Saturday night performance. And you've got slack for the Sunday performance.
Yes, sir. So
lots of duties, lots of going. As you said, sometimes you're up early. I mean, slack seemed to me they'd kick off around 10. They might run a couple hours, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you step back and take a nap with any luck, and get your books ready to go again for that evening's performance.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, and that's a luxury that they have up there in the Northeast with the APRA. The APRA allows them to have back-to-back rodeos. Mm-hmm. The IPRA does not allow you to do that, and it's a protection for the stock contractors. Mm-hmm. If me as a contestant can go to Benton and stay all weekend, why would I leave Benton and go to another rodeo 40 miles away.
Yep.
Even though they have the same added money, I can win the same much here. And the IPRA doesn't allow them to do that, to help them stock contractors keep contestants. So that's a little thing there.
Okay. And I don't know if that's still allowed, but I know there was co-sanction. There's a lot of co-sanction stuff. We talked with Dale Yerriman. Okay. IPRA first, APRA first, whatever it might be. And those you talked about, you got to know the rules of each association. So if it's an APRA, IPRA rodeo co-sanction, you follow the rules of the first sanctioning body, right?
That's exactly right. And you have to know which sanction it is because it's a different payoff. It's a different way they, how much you charge and all of your fees that you're charging. They have separate deals. You have to know the rules for whatever association it is first that you are secretary in that rodeo. Have to.
Okay. So you've described a wonderful weekend. I mean, it's a super busy weekend. And I bet if you sat down and tallied up your time, including on the site, right, when you're at the rodeo grounds, including your travel time in, your travel time to the next one, it's a ton of hours you're putting into it. And you can you typically feel or stay pretty well rested during a weekend when it's going that hard?
It used to be easier. It's getting harder as I get older.
Okay.
I don't know. Miss Wanda and I talked about it this weekend. Chris Carpenter and I talked about it. I love the rodeos, and I can thrive right on through them. It's the drive that's about, sometimes those drives, this past weekend, it was 13 hours down, 13 hours back, just driving. And it gets, and especially on the way back when you're tired because you've had late nights and, long days, the road's getting a little hard. But sure. There's some rodeos where you're so tired, you think, oh my gosh, I can't function. And sometimes those mistakes that are made is when you're so tired, you knew better, but you didn't catch it because you were so tired.
Yeah. And for like those 13-hour runs that you just took to and fro, are you doing those in a single drive, or are you breaking that up and with an overnight?
I do them in a single drive.
Oh my goodness.
If it's less than 20, I usually drive it.
Okay.
I have Sherry Sumner, my best friend that travels a lot with me, she does not like that. She wants to stop. Yeah. But then you can't afford that. For no more than we get paid, you can't afford to stop and get a room and do all that. If you had, like my son, like Rob traveling with his whole rig, he can pull over at the, at the rest area, get in the trailer, get some sleep and go on. I don't have that luxury. There have been times when I stopped at a well-lit area right beside the front door of the Love's truck stop and went to sleep for a little while. But it's hard for me traveling in a car to do it. But yes, I usually drive it.
Okay. And you're doing this full time. This is your job.
That's what I do for a living.
And you went full-time. Even though you've done it for 40 years, you went full-time in 2010. You made a decision. Because you were working at the time, if I'm not mistaken, in a grocery store.
Yes, sir. I was a manager of a grocery store.
Okay. So talk about stepping out into the unknown. You're coming from a salary. You can depend on it every single week. Certainly you've got to put in the time and the hours to manage that grocery store, and you work your rodeos on the weekend. Talk a little bit about making that decision, if you would. Pretty big, major decision.
It was hard because I did rodeo on the weekend, and I ran, as a manager. And, before that, I've done a lot of jobs over the years, but that's what I was doing at the time. And I would, still go work my rodeos. And, it was hard. And, I had my boss didn't like that I would leave, sometimes on Thursday or something, but I had already put in 60 hours at the store. So, I was going, but, there in 2010, for several years before, Sam Swearingen, had at the IFYR every year, he'd say, "Hey, Danna, come work for me. Come work for me. You can have my whole run. Come work for me." And I'm like, "Damn, I can't do that. I can't leave my family." I had gone through a horrible divorce in 2006. Oh. And so but anyway, well, all those years, Heather, my son's wife, had said, "Hey, Danny, you should do it. That's what you're good at. You should do it." And I'm like, "There's no way, Heather, I can't do that." And in 2010, we lost her to an accident. And I thought, life's too short to not do what you really love doing and what you're good at. And at her visitation for her funeral, when my boss came through, I gave him my 2-week notice and I quit my job. I did call, when Sam had called me several times through the process of us going through dealing with this, and had said, because we've been friends for a long time, I had flown up and done North Washington a couple of times before this and stuff. But he had, and anyway, I said, "Sam, is that job offer still open?" He said, "Absolutely, come on." So I quit my job at her visitation, and my first rodeo to go up there full time and stay was Brookville.
Brookville, PA, certainly, yes.
Brookville, PA. And I went up and it stayed for, I don't even know, I went through that whole run, with him. And it was scary. I worried about how I was going to eat and how I was going to pay my bills and stuff, but I had people here at home that supported me 100%, and I did it. In fact, those first few months after we lost Heather, Rob went up there and worked for Sam. He needed to get away from here. He needed to go. And he went up there and worked for Sam. So anyway, it was a hard decision, but I did it, and I don't regret it. I love that I did it, and Sam's been very, very good to me, and there were some times I'd love to kill him, and sometimes it was just great, but yes, sir, I did it. I jumped off and went full-fledged, and I had a lot of other stock contractors that hired me and keep me going, and I have those guys that I will go to hell with in a moment and work for, and then those that I've worked for that I will never do that again. So
you sort through all that sort of thing.
Oh yes, sir. You sort through them.
Well, I remember 2010, I was announcing the Benton Rodeo, and I remember you came up, and how cool to have you in the booth with me. I mean, very calm, very quiet. What I remember most is you knew so much about these rodeo competitors. A lot of these folks had come out of Oklahoma or the Carolinas or whatever it might be to compete up there, and just how neat it was to have you in the booth. He'd say, "Hey, Doug, just so you know, this person won the third round at the IFYR in January." Stuff like that, you bet. And just the calm that you brought to the announcer stand, I'm assuming still bring, just from an announcer standpoint, having the day sheets in proper order and the draws, and it just made the job for me so much easier. And I just got to tell you how much I appreciate your help and how much I appreciate our friendship.
Oh, well, yes, sir. I remember working with you all those years and stuff. It was great. But, Doug, I don't know. When I very first started, I had a woman that tell me that in order to Secretary of Rodeo, you had to be a bitch. And that just hurt my soul. I thought, no, you don't, because I remember going to those women that were that way to me as a contestant, and seeing that and thinking, oh man, people are scared of her and stuff like that. So I never wanted to be that person, but I am very calm on the announcer stand, very calm. It is not rocket science. It is not life or death. It is, these people are there. They are trying to make a living just like I am, or most of ours at these rodeos are weekend warriors, and they're doing what they love, and it needs to be right. So we need a calmness of staying that way to make sure that everything is right. And when you make a mistake, you say you make a mistake. If you miss a time, you say you miss a time, and all like that. So it's all just calm to me.
Yep.
But I do have that knowledge up there of these contestants. But the reason I have that knowledge, Doug, and I think the reason I've done what I've done is those contestants matter to me. I love them. And when you can hear, if you sit up there with me right now, they'll come pay their fees, or they'll come collect their winnings, or they'll come up. And when they walk off and they, I'll say, love you. And I mean that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't say that because I mean that. I love these people. They are my family. Yep. And nobody outside of rodeo understands what family is until you've lost somebody or something tragic has happened in your life.
Yeah. And
you will never, ever know family like family till that happens.
Okay.
And these people matter to me. They mean something to me. And so, yes, I am that person. But it is important to me to help you as an announcer because you didn't come from down here and you weren't there for me to help you know that, yeah, so-and-so, he won the average IFYR. Yep. He did it. And that's important to hear that. I mean, as you as a contestant and you're up there in the Northeast and you're from, wherever, and you hear the announcer say, hey, they won the average at the IFYR, and you think, that's nice to hear up here. It's nice to hear.
You bet.
So, anyway. Yeah. Or for me to correct a name, that's something with me. Yeah. People call me Dana or Diana and stuff like that. And some people, it never bothers me. I'll never correct you. Yeah. But my name's Danna. Yeah. And that's important to me when you're pronouncing a name. Right. I may look over here very calmly and say, this is their name. Yeah. Or something because I think, it's important.
Professional. So, It's professional. And it matters and it shows respect, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
and I don't ever mean to tell you that or to say I'm putting words in your mouth or something like that. I'm just trying to help you as an announcer.
For sure.
And I have worked with people that, don't give the announcer the splits in the steer wrestling unless the announcer comes and asks them for the splits. Well, what the world? Yeah. We're all up there together. Absolutely. And if that announcer is lost, the whole rodeo's lost. Yep. So let's help the announcer know that, and I don't know if that your listeners may that too, but especially in the steer wrestling where everybody's riding the same horse, you have all these steer wrestlers and 5 of them are riding the same horse. Well, you want to split them up. The first man always has to be first, and you split them up. Well, then everybody has to be on the same page as we're going through this performance. For sure. As to who's first, who's second, who's third. They've loaded, we've made sure when I gave the load list to the guys that are loading the cattle, I made sure the cattle were right in that order. But the announcer is probably the next person that needs to know this is where we're going.
Well, and a lot of the times I did a lot of them back then, 2010 and so forth, on horseback. So I'm sitting down by the timed event chute, and they may say, "Oh, this is so and so is going to go," and I'd look over and go, "I don't think that's who it is," on my day sheet because I might not have known the splits. Right? And you're out there kind of on.
And I hope and pray to God that, Doug, I never left you hanging like that at a rodeo.
Never,
okay.
never. No,
if I did, you make sure you tell me.
Yeah.
But, yes, and it is. And, especially that's when two people really have to work together, and I absolutely love it, is that guy that is working a horseback. I'm in your ear, and stuff, but Lord, you have to work together.
Oh, you do.
You have to make this a team effort.
It's all about the show, right?
Yes, sir. It is about those people that their butts are sitting in them bleachers because they're the ones that are allowing us. They paid to get in that gate, which put the whole thing into motion. Yep. If we're not making a good show for them, that we have failed. We have totally failed.
Absolutely.
In the rodeo world.
That's exactly right. Well said. And you talk about mispronouncing your name, Donna, Danna, Dana, whatever it might be. Do you know the origins of your name, Danna?
No, Doug, I don't.
Okay.
My sister's name is Vanessa, and I was Danna, and it is spelt D-A-N-N-A. Yeah. And my mother told us all the time that that's what our dad wanted to name us, but I have no earthly idea where it came from.
Okay.
None.
Okay. All right.
And it's just, I've always, and it's Danna Ree, so I don't know where that comes from, but Vanessa and Danna were two very uncommon names in our in the 50s is what I say, but I don't know where they came.
Danna Ree, did I get that right?
Danna Ree. Yes.
Danna Ree. How do you spell Ree?
REA.
That's what I wrote down. Danna Ree. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
There's nobody else in my family on either, my mother's side or my dad's side that has that in their name.
Okay.
So I don't know where Vanessa, Karen, or Danna Ree came from. I don't know.
Okay. And I know this time of the year is typically slows down for you, I'm guessing, as opposed to the midsummer when you got all the fair rodeos, like you said, Brookville and all of that going on. But you were in Florida this last week, and a week ago you went up to the IFYR, Columbiana,
yes,
Ohio.
Sir.
Tell me, that's a brand new arena?
Oh, Garwood, it is amazing. Mm-hmm. It is an amazing facility. Mm-hmm. And these people have worked so hard. But yes, it's the Garwood Arena there in Columbiana, Ohio. It is one of the most beautiful facilities you will ever go to, the cleanest. We have some beautiful indoor arenas, but oh my gosh, you'll leave there sick and all like that. But this is the cleanest, I'm telling you, well ran. They are all about trying to make everybody happy and doing the right things, and it is beautiful. But this is our second year to have the IFYR there.
Okay.
And we will be there again next year. I know they did sign a new contract while we were there.
Perfect.
Whether I'm there or not, I don't know, but the IFYR will be there.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And that's one of. Yeah.
And your son, Rob, went up?
He was there.
He was the arena director, right?
He was the arena director, yes, sir. And any job he does, he takes very seriously. So, but he was the arena director. The last year he was the barrel man there, but he didn't work enough APRA first rodeos this year to be eligible. So he didn't even get to be on the list to be turned in.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then you've got some big events coming. When I say big events, big weekends, back-to-back in Gutherie, Oklahoma, come January. And big from big crowds, big contestants, and more importantly, big money.
Yes, sir.
So on the 3rd through the 6th of January, you're at the Lazy Arena there in Gutherie for the World Champions Rodeo Alliance. This is the 2024 Triple Crown of Rodeo Series kicks off there. And it's, what's it called? WCRA Stampede at the E, I believe it is.
It's called the Stampede at the E.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And total prize money, do I have this right, at $400,000?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow.
I've been doing WCRA events for several, I did not do the first one. I don't think I did the first two that they actually had as the WCRA, but ever since then I have been doing them. They are absolutely phenomenal events to get to work. They are very time consuming, very hard. We have our nose to the grindstone working. Eva Chadwick and I secretary them together. She is the lead secretary, which Eva was the secretary of the year last year in the PRCA. Let me jump in there right quick. But as she is one of my favorite people in the whole world, but me and her secretary them together, and we have an awesome team with Jolie Jordan and Kathy Myers, who is. We have a team that goes in there and works them events, and but I will be at the Lazy E for almost 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they talk a little bit about the Triple Crown of Rodeo for our listeners. What does that mean, Triple Crown?
Well, the Triple Crown means if you got right now, which it means that if you go win, if they have these huge events, a Triple Crown event that they call it, and if you win 3 of those events, which are be Triple Crowns, you're eligible to win $1 million. R.C. Landingham did it. He, when you go win them, but no matter what, you're going and winning a lot of money. We had a lot of IPRA contestants at Rodeo Carolina that walked away from there with a lot of money.
Okay.
And so you nominate rodeos in order to get there. they have leaderboards from nominations, and you qualify to get in there, and it's just you know. And I'll be honest with you, exactly how all they qualify, that's not on my brain doesn't go in and think all that, because I don't have to. I just know how we run the events when they get there.
So how many contestants? And this is going to be 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 days, right? And I'm guessing pretty busy days. How many what's the number of contestants are going to show up in total, roughly?
Oh Lord, I don't even know. They're different every event as to the number of qualifications. There'll be one day where we just run the qualifying rounds, just for the people that are coming in there trying to qualify to jump over into the Cripple Crown, the main event and stuff. So it's, I don't know exactly how many, Doug.
Okay. Big numbers though, right? I mean,
very big numbers. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
sir. And I've been following this a little bit, trying to understand. I can, as a contestant, I'm not a member of the WCRA, right? But
yes, sir. It is not a membership organization. There are no memberships.
So if I want to, my entry process or my qualification process may start a few months earlier, where I may nominate before I go. Let's say I'm going to North Washington, Pennsylvania, let's say. I can nominate that rodeo. So whatever I win at that rodeo goes towards my qualifications, is what I'm understanding. And the nomination costs me money, right?
Yes, sir. But I know that those events, it all depends on the size of the event. I mean, there are jackpots that you can nominate.
Really?
As long as it's open to the world, anybody can enter and stuff like that. Those nominations, you can nominate that event. So it all depends on, the entry fee depends on how much is added at that rodeo, what the normal contestant, it all depends on, they have a tier level of entry fees or nomination fees for those events. And so, some have went to just small events and paid very small nomination fees and then got to qualify. And then some have qualified at those big events. Some have qualified from the IFYR last year. They nominated those and stuff, and they had automatic qualifications because of their what they won there and what they paid there. So it all depends. It is a tier system of some sort that qualifies them in there. And it's, I know there were people at Rodeo Carolina that had paid very small amounts in order to get there.
So and they will still, as they come into the Lazy there in Gutherie, they're still going to pay an entry fee. Did I read it right? About $250 per event I'm going to pay to come compete?
Yes, sir. But most of them have already paid that. They have to have it paid when they enter that event. Yes, sir.
And then I want to back up. Fort Worth, Texas, last year, Cowtown, is it the Cowtown Coliseum?
Yes, sir. It's at the Cowtown Coliseum. They're in yes, sir, at the Stockyards.
At the Stockyards. Okay. R.C. Landingham wins 3 of these big events, which makes him the first Triple Crown of Rodeo, and to your point, paid $1 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he's the first Triple Crown of Rodeo millionaire. You were there on site. You secretaried that rodeo. What was that like to know you're going to ride, or the money's moving for $1 million?
Right. For Eva and I, we were like, the whole, everybody that, and you would sit there and think that those peoples were, saying, oh my gosh, I hope he bucks off, whatever, we won't have to pay $1 million. Everybody, every single person there wanted RC to do it. They had $100 bills, which they were all, for movie purposes, raining out of the ceilings. I have mine still.
Do you?
Oh, yes. But it was a magical moment for rodeo. A magical moment that somebody, which RC's very good, but he actually did it. He won the $1 million and stuff. And it was like, just like at Rodeo Carolina, everybody was rooting for Isaac Diaz. I mean, everybody wanted him to do it. That man his Christian faith, is just like amazing, that how he handled the whole situation. But you want them guys to do it, but it was very exciting for Eva and I in the back. We didn't get to actually write the check.
You didn't.
But for us, we're putting it all in the computer.
Yeah.
We're putting it there. Yes, because everybody else we wrote checks for, but that came from, somehow or another, came from the lazy, I don't know, from somewhere that was paid to him in a different way. The bank did not let us write $1 million check.
Okay. Well, as they say,
we say we did.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm going to give you credit for it. I don't know why you told us you didn't just now. No.
Because that's just, hey.
No, I'm kidding.
The truth is the truth.
It is. But life-changing money, to your point, and I had heard that Rodeo Carolina was very, 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 a very, very good rodeo for a lot of IPRA cowboys. So that's exciting.
It was very good. And that makes me, there you have Eva as the Secretary of the Year in the PRCA, and there's me, who has won the Secretary of the Year for several years now. Mm-hmm. We won't go back and do all that, but it made me feel good that my people were there, and doing that kind of deal, which it's very important to me. And, this was set out there. A lot of those world champions in the PRCA came from the IPRA.
Absolutely. Yes.
They were IPRA world champions before they were PRCA world champions and stuff. So, whatever, it's alphabet soup. We're all in the rodeo. That's what we're about. We want to rodeo, and we want to do good at it, and we want to make a living at it. And, I have people ask me every day, why are you still going and doing them amateur rodeos? Mm-hmm. Well, they pay my bills. Mm-hmm. They are, and this is very important to me. Mm-hmm. My heart is the IPRA. I love that my PRCA rodeos. I love my PRCA stock contractors. Mm-hmm. I dearly love working them. I'm going to the NFR here in a few weeks to do all that stuff. I love them. Yeah. But my heart and soul is the IPRA and those people, that it's like that family thing where you go back. Yeah. It's just, Kevin Daniels and I sat down here at Newberry, Florida this weekend, and we talked about, there's Kevin, one of those people that, he's been an IPRA world champion, but he is my people. I love him dearly. And Stephen was talking about it, how some of it, you're losing the family part of it. People used to sit around and visit and talk, and they're not anymore. They're too big of in a hurry to leave there and go to this rodeo and do that and stuff like that. And it's sad, but you talk about proud. I had very proud moments at Rodeo Carolina with those, people. Yeah. Those, little Blaine Houston from McBain, Michigan, rolls in there like he did. He's just a kid. He's 17 years old, and he come in there and rode bareback horses, held his own. And you talking about his mother was no more proud of him than I was. Yeah. And that family is my family. I love them dearly. Yep. But I was so stinking proud of Blaine Houston that I could not, Booger, Britnell, or Stephen Britnell, Booger Britnell comes in there and does what he does. And then all those boys that were just like, I'm like, yep, that's an IPRA boy right there. Yeah. Maddie Helms on the junior part, that's an IPRA girl right there. And, Julie Plard, it's just those people made me proud. Yeah.
And with good reason, and always great to see him come out of the Midwest and the Northeast, and the IPRA is represented. I got to tell you, I cringe every time I hear somebody say, oh, that's an amateur rodeo. Mm-hmm. I cringe.
Yes, they do it all the time, the Ammies.
Yeah.
The Ammies.
And I was taught a long time ago the difference between a professional and an amateur is amateurs don't get paid.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Well, speaking of pay, we're headed to the IFR, and they've doubled the money this year, the prize money, from $250,000 to $500,000, and that's the weekend after the WCRA event there in Gutherie, same arena. You're going to roll. You said you're going to be up there how many weeks? 3 weeks?
Almost 3.
Almost
Yeah,
3.
almost 3 weeks.
And you've got 2 huge bookend weekends. Between the two, if
Yes.
my math is right, and I'm not as sharp as you are, but 400,000 out of the WCRA event, $500,000 out of the IFR. There's big money going to roll in Guthrie, Oklahoma.
Yes, sir, there is. Yes, sir, there is. I mean, I'm super proud of the growth of the IFYR with, that, and I know a lot of that came with the sale. I'm super proud of what our payoffs are going to be this year at the IFR. It's worth it's worth what these guys have gone down the road, and the entry fees and the miles and the all of that. It's going to pay them to be there this year, and I'm really proud of that. Us as personnel, we're getting a raise, and I can just I'll just say this will be my 19th IFR, and I have secured my buckle every year myself, or my whatever I won. And this year, Gary McKinney stepped up and said, we'll do that. Okay. We'll do that for y'all. And that makes me very proud that we're growing in that direction.
You bet.
Very proud.
Okay. And for our listeners, you worked your first IFR at IFR number 35, which would have been January of 2005.
Wow.
That sound right?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, sir.
And you've been
That's a long time ago, Doug.
I'm gonna say you're gonna be pressing 20 years here pretty quickly. This year's 19, as you said. So well
sir.
done.
And that's as a secretary. Now, I also worked at the IFR as a timer.
I was gonna say,
just as a secretary, this will be my 19th IFR.
Oh, that is excellent.
Yes, sir.
That is absolutely excellent. And when you talk about the money coming, we're seeing bigger payoffs. You get a raise to work the IFR, all the personnel does. Are we seeing that there can be a little bit more money for the secretaries at the weekly rodeos and the work that we've just described? Is that starting to inch up a little bit?
Well, Doug, I wish I could say yes, but no.
Okay.
Because and I know that it's all, I don't know. We have hashed this through until it's unreal. But why are you going to pay me what you have to pay to get Danna Gann at your rodeo when you can get Sue to come do it for half of what Danna will do it? Doesn't matter what kind of job she's going to do. She worked at the bank. She's going to be able to do it. Why, so that's the mentality of so many of these stock contractors, and we don't have a pay scale. Yeah. The judges in these associations now, they have a pay scale. You can't pay them under so much.
Yep.
We don't have that.
Well,
I don't want to be on a pay scale with most people because I'm just not going to come work your event if you're not going to pay me to be there.
Right.
I'm not going to do that, and I'm sorry. I wish I could, but I can't because this is what I do for a living. And if it's going to cost me by the time I pay for all my fuel, I pay for the wear and tear, I paid for a hotel, I paid to eat, and I paid this, and then when I get home I have $100 in my pocket, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving my family. I got 2 granddaughters I miss things that they get to do now. I'm not missing those things anymore for no money.
You bet.
I'm not going to do it.
Well, what was interesting, and I appreciate that, and this is why this podcast is so important, today's conversation. That's why we went into such detail of what a weekend looks like. Do you realize you're getting 6 hours of sleep maybe a day during those bigger rodeos? One of the things that Hollywood Harris, he was on the show a week ago, one of the things that he said, there was a change in the PBR when Flint Rasmussen showed up. He said no longer was it pay per event or per day or whatever. He said, I want a net amount when I leave, which means you pay my transportation, you pay my hotel, you pay my food, right? When I leave, though, I want a check of money that I can take to the house. So just putting it out there for the rodeo stock contractors, I think it's time to start to think about, there is a difference between somebody that's just starting. We talk about calmness in the booth. We talk about major mistakes that can get made very, very easily. So the precision and everything that you bring in your experience, I think it's not an even scale to your point. First year person doing this versus your experience, been there, done that, and all the lessons you've learned over the years. That's my pitch. Okay.
Oh, I agree. I mean, Doug, there's not a weekend that goes by that I don't get phone calls from another secretary that I help her.
You bet.
Or I don't get a phone call from a contestant saying, hey, Danna, just went up and got my money and I don't think this is right. Can you, and I'm always like, please don't tell them you talked to me. Just go up and say, hey, look, maybe, this or that. But it's every weekend deal. And any secretary, anytime, I will help them. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I had to call phone a friend this weekend at Newberry, Florida, and say, I need help because the Procom had made a little bit of a glitch, and it was nothing that we couldn't fix, but I was having problems, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody. So Eva Chadwick, I'm calling. Eva, I need help. Okay. So we all call those people, and we need them, but we need to appreciate how much we're paying them and not paying them.
You bet.
And that's one of the downfalls. That's one of the hard things about the IFYR is most people, you have that mentality like, okay, I'm going to work an IFYR rodeo this weekend, and this is how much I'm going to make. But then I'm going to work the very next day. I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to work a PRCA rodeo, and I'm going to get paid more.
Yep.
The funny men, the bullfighters, the announcers, they all are in the same boat.
You bet. You bet. Absolutely.
And my son is he is a funny man that is making that much, but it's sad, and I know what he makes, but when him and I get in a truck together and we go to a rodeo, he's going to make almost 3 times more than I make at that rodeo. Yep. And I've worked days before and days after.
You bet. You bet. No, to our stock contractors.
And that's sad.
You bet. That's very sad. It's time for reform here. It's time for a change.
And I had a stock contractor call me and ask me, he's like, oh my God, I can't do that. I pay my funny man and my announcer too much. I said, well, you picked your priorities. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm not coming for less than that. But that's what he said to me. Oh my gosh, I pay my announcer, my funny man too much to pay you that.
Yep.
Priorities. I'm sorry. I can't come do it.
Balance it out. Absolutely.
And I know here I am talking to an announcer, and my son is a funny man. And, and I get all that. And I know you have a lot of equipment and you have all of that in there. But I have a lot. I mean, I sat on the announcer stand at Newberry, Florida this weekend with a $2,000 computer getting wet.
Right.
And, with towels and everything else over it, trying to keep it dry. So I have equipment too. I have, all that stuff too. So it's hard on us.
You bet.
It's hard on us.
Bet. And as an announcer, I'll tell you, without a secretary, there is no show. Who am I going to talk about? Right?
Right. And this is something else since me and you are talking and we're talking about all this. Yeah. Let's talk about the timers.
Yeah. Right.
The 2 timers have every contestant there at a click of their finger.
Yep.
They hold the fate of every contestant at that rodeo at a click of their finger.
Yep.
And most of them contestants can't even tell you who the timers are at the rodeo.
You bet.
Or could give a toot who they are.
Yep.
And them 2 timers get the least recognition and the least pay of anybody at that rodeo. And they hold every contestant's fate at the click of their finger.
You bet. Well said.
That's sad, Doug.
I know.
That is
sad. I know.
That we are that, I just think that is just so sad.
Yeah.
They have to beg for money because anybody, I don't know. It just is a sore spot with me that, they don't get recognized any more than they are. And, a lot in most rodeos, I'm one of those girls, but at least I'm making more than the person that's with me because I'm actually secretary too. But I'm getting paid a secretary pay. I'm not getting paid a secretary timer pay.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. Nope, exactly. Well, I think it's great. We put it out there and let's see who listens, and maybe we can change a perspective or two here. Okay. Yeah. And I know the money is getting bigger for the contract acts and that sort of thing. I know. And I'm encouraged. This is where I am. I'm encouraged that the lazy and rodeo logistics and everybody's coming in, more money, WCRA, and I'm really tickled to hear that there's raises for the personnel, yourself included, at the IFR this year. About time.
Yes, sir.
About time.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We've all worked the IFR for less money than we got paid for any rodeo all year long.
You bet.
But it's an honor to work it.
You bet.
Do not. And that's one thing like the APRA, the APRA finals up there in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
Those contestants vote on me to be there.
Yep.
I will almost go do that rodeo for nothing because the contestants voted for me to be there.
Yep.
And that means the absolute world to me.
You bet.
World to me that those contestants voted for me to come secretary of their rodeo.
You bet.
So.
You bet. And, we talk about these contestants been going up and down the road a long time. One of the other places where you spend a ton of time, Danna, is Shawnee, Oklahoma. IFYR started 30 years ago. I think you've secretaried that all but a couple years of that 30-year run. Talk a little bit about it. That's got a big payoff, $250,000, about 800 contestants. What's that week look like?
Oh, Lordy. It is a very, very busy week. We start the check-in at 8 o'clock Friday morning, the weekend, the few days before it starts on Sunday. We start check-in, and we roll all them kids through there. And with Carissa and I, well, at first it was me and Karen Efron, and then Carissa Stewart replaced Karen, and there was years and years there that we did not lay down between Friday morning until Sunday night because we had 24-hour check-ins, and we checked all them kids in, and they rolled through, and you've never seen such great parenting and the worst parenting in your life. But you see all that, and you see all of those kids that, I can sit here and, tell you the Clayton Bigelows and the Stetson Wright and all of these kids that came through there that you just look at and he's going to be a world champion, or she's going to be a world champion, or all those kids that you've seen. But it's a fire drill for a week there in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and it is probably one of my most pride-filled rodeos.
Okay.
I used to do it in an Excel spreadsheet. Lee Woodside wrote us a program several years ago, which made our lives much easier for Chris and I, and that's rolled in there. And Next Gen's getting involved now, but it is, oh my gosh, what a week for kids. And it's a family thing for me.
Yeah.
We have went from Rob being a contestant there to being a stock contractor there. We have furnished all the timed event cattle there.
Oh, wow.
We have had bucking horses, bucking bulls. Rob fought bulls for, I think, 13 years there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And now since then, he's been, even when he was fighting bulls, he was an acting arena director and stuff. Now he is a judge in one of the arenas.
Oh, wow.
And stuff because Rob's a senior pro judge in IFYR and stuff. But all my granddaughters have grown up there, running around there. And it is just it's a week that is very close to my heart because of the family and all the Martins, when and if you know what I mean by that, and the steer wrestlers out of Louisiana, all of those, all of their kids and it's just so much that you just can't ever go and get back. It's just the memories there at Shawnee. And what the people, it's volunteer. 500 something volunteers that work their butts off to put that on, and it is just an amazing event.
Okay. Yeah. And I know you've done it 28, 30 years, whatever it's been. You're going back again in July? You're going back in July?
Well, I hope so. Don't know yet. I hadn't signed a contract, but I do assume I probably will. Yes, sir.
Yeah, ever since we worked together in 2010 and later, I remember you did Benton and then you scooted out. You headed to Shawnee.
Right, and that's one thing. See, Benton and Ellicottville, the way they fall with the 4th of July, some years I could be at Benton and I wasn't at Ellicottville, and then the last few years I've been at Ellicottville and not been able to go to Benton.
Okay.
But it always, however Shawnee fell, determined which rodeo I was going to get to be at.
I see.
You know,
Okay.
because of the way Shawnee felt on the, over the 4th of July type situation.
All right. Two subjects left, Danna.
Oh, okay.
If that's okay. One subject is our listeners love travel stories, life on the road. Yeah. Got anything that stands out?
Well, I have some adventures. I'm telling you, it has been one of my favorite, and we just talked about it at the IFYR and stuff like this. But we used to had a PRCA rodeo at Wantage, New Jersey, and Wantage is just across the line from New York. And Doc, that had Malibu Dude Ranch, always was gracious enough to let me stay in one of the cabins at the Malibu Dude Ranch. And this, I want to say, was the first year that Sherry Sumner, my best friend from Oklahoma, me and her went together. And what Doc would do is he would have them, because I would be rolling in there late at night because I drove all day, and he would have them put a key and tell me what cabin I was staying in. They were all named after states, California and Texas and Arizona. The cabins were. And so I drive to the lodge, and the lodge kind of looks like if you've ever watched Dirty Dancing, and you see the big lodge sitting up there, and that's kind of what it looked like. You drive up to the back of the lodge and you go in there, and I get my key, and it's dark. There's night lights out and stuff, and it's dark, and I get my key, and when I get in the car and I drive to the cabin, and I've got the headlights on the cabin, and I tell Sherry, I said, Sherry, you stay in the car and I'll go turn on the lights, and then we can see. Well, what most people don't know about Sherry, if you've ever met her, Sherry is deaf, and she functions very well. And she does wear hearing aids, but she has to know you're talking to her to hear for her to hear you, for her to know. So I go and I unlock and I turn on the porch light, and when I turn back around, and I could smell this horrible smell when I got out of the car. I thought, wonder what that is,
Right.
And I walked, and when I turned around, I could see her. Here's this bear.
The bear. You saw a bear.
A bear.
Oh my.
A bear.
Oh my.
And she's like way off in the distance. There's a night light. So that night light she's kind of in. You can see her. And so I'm like, Sherry, stay in the car.
Right.
Stay in the car.
Right.
There's a bear. Well, Sherry don't hear me. She's getting out of that car. She's getting out of the car.
Oh, no.
Oh my God. What am I going to do? So I take off, and I'm running to the car because I thought, if we're going to get hit by a bear, we're both going to get hit. Here we go. So I'm like, she gets out. Well, she pops the trunk on my car. And I'm like, Sherry, there's a bear. And she's like, a what? I said, there's a bear. And we look, and here's this bear. And I mean, she has she has a cub with her. And you can see her, but she's like hissing at her, her at us. And so Sherry says, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I was like, I don't know. She says, we can't get in the car. And I'm like, why? Well, I had just bought a brand new car the day before. And she's like, it's brand new. And I'm like, it's got insurance on it. But we're still standing at the trunk of this car.
Right.
And looking at this bear. And she's fussing at us because she has a baby.
Oh, wow.
Well, all of a sudden we're standing there watching her, and she goes over, she walks back out of the light, so you can't see her anymore, out of that shadow that's shining way back there from that night light.
Yeah.
And you can't see her. Well, here she comes again. She's got two cubs.
Oh.
So she has two cubs, and she's looking at us, and she's kind of going on. All of a sudden, off out here to the right, to my right, where I'm standing at the trunk, I hear this horrible screaming. I'm like, and I said, there's another cub. Sherry is like, oh my God. What are we going to do? Well, she's whooping on these cubs, and she's fussing at them because they are not minding their mother.
Yeah.
So she goes, and here she gets the third cub, and then they walk across out to the left out of our sight. We can't see me. Well, that's the smell I smelled when I got out of the car, was her, this bear.
Okay.
So Sherry and I slam the trunk, and we go to the cabin, get in the cabin.
Yeah.
And then we just both start cracking up laughing. I mean, here we have encountered this bear. I mean, this bear was like, she could have been on us in a second because she was that close. And so anyway, the next day Well, I let Rob know that we're at the ranch, but we almost got it by a bear. And then he is sending us Snapchats about, or I don't even know back then what it was. Something he's sending us about my mom and Sherry getting hit by a bear, and we're cracking up laughing. And we laugh. Well, the next day when we get to the rodeo and we tell Sam and Dave Waltz that we encountered this bear, they didn't think it was funny at all.
Right.
They were like, here we were laughing about it, and they're like, this is not funny. Do you know how close you come to dying with a mother bear with her cubs? And we're like, oh, well, we didn't. So anyway. Well, then what really gets me, Doug, about the whole story is the rodeos, when Wantage is over, Sherry and I drive, and we drive all night.
Yeah.
Trying to get back home because we've got to be someplace. And we're going through Dixon, Tennessee. And it's probably, I don't know, it is just broke daylight good. And so we're both pretty stupid because Sherry's an excellent traveling partner. I mean, but she's not, I'm the driver, but she'll stay awake and help you.
Okay.
So we're pretty stupid at this point. And we pull into McDonald's and we order our food, and this little bird lands on the front of the car, on the hood of the car. Yeah. And it's hopping around there, and I'm digging through the console and trying to get this and that. And Sherry says, roll up the window. And I ignore her. I'm still doing whatever thing. And Sherry, a little bit louder, she says, roll up the window.
Yeah.
Well, the little bird hops on my side mirror.
Okay.
On the driver's side of the car.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, Doug, she screams at me, roll the effing window up. And if you know Sherry, you know that word is not in her vocabulary. Yeah. And so I look at her, and I start cracking up laughing. I am laughing, and Doug, she points her finger in my face. She says, I'd rather that bear be in this car than that bird. So I'm laughing at her so hard. We get our food, and Sherry's the type of co-pilot that, she puts your straw in your drink, and she rolls your paper down and hands it to you.
Nice.
Oh, no. I am on my own. And I don't know, we get over there around Linsville or someplace like that, and I said, we needed to get out. Yeah. And I said, Sherry, you want to go by Loretta Lynn's ranch? Yeah. She kind of looks at me, she said, that'll be fine. Okay. So finally, it took, I don't know how many miles for her to even talk to me, but I thought, here we've had this encounter with this bear. Yeah. And then this daggum bird has scared her absolutely to death. Yeah. But she was scared to death, that bird. That's, I guess, one of my funniest stories of traveling. But I've had some pretty dandy ones, believe me, over the years. But
that's one of the best ones I think we have heard of all the stories. So I appreciate that, and our listeners will enjoy that.
Like I said, I don't know if it's right there with Dale having to turn around and drive back hundreds of miles to get horses, but
that one was
interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting, and separating Mama from her third cub. Yeah, I think Sam and Dave Waltz were pretty much spot on. You were in a kind of a dangerous spot there.
And Sherry, and we didn't. We're like, we have bears in Arkansas, but not like up there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've seen many a bear up there, and especially in Pennsylvania, over there around where I stay. I stay with Stumpy or Wade and Renee Hazlett. When I call them my Pennsylvania children, and I stay there, and I've seen several bears just around their house, but I didn't get, and I wasn't, 10, 15 feet from them.
Yeah. And
I wasn't a car length from them.
Yeah. No, I hear that. And close enough you could smell her. That's pretty close.
Yeah, she smelled horrible. And I was like, oh. And I did remember, the next morning when it was daylight, the trash can that they have sitting out there was turned over. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say that we probably disrupted her turning over that trash can. Sure. But I didn't, I just bailed out of the car and zipped up there. Well, I probably walked right past her. Yeah. Walking up there, but I smelt her horribly, but I did not hear her or see her until I turned around and I saw that light that was shining way off out there. You could see her in the shadow, and then I could hear her. Yep. But I was trying to get Sherry to stay in the car, and she didn't. And anyway,
okay. That's a great story. And the last subject I want to talk about before we end our conversation, the word you used a lot through all of this has been family.
Oh, yeah.
So, family on the road, whether it's cow camp or in Pennsylvania with the Hazlets, or family feeling at a particular rodeo. You've used that word a lot. First, start maybe with talking a little bit about your immediate family, your son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren.
Yes. I have Rob, which is my son, and then Kim is his wife, and they have a beautiful family. Rob has a 17-year-old daughter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That, yeah, she lives about 2.5 hours away from us. And then Caroline is the youngest. She's 11, and she lives here. We all live on the same farm here in Arkansas. But they are my everything, my whole reason for being. I cannot tell you what they mean to me. Both of the girls are involved in rodeo.
Oh, they are?
They have been from day one. If you watch Rob's page very much, you'll see Caroline and a lot of his acts.
Oh, okay.
She loves the entertaining part of it. And then Lainey is, oh my gosh, that girl. She runs barrels and stuff. But last year at the IFR, she told her dad that she really wanted to be homeschooled, and he was like, he is very high on education. He has an ag ed degree. You're going to get an education and stuff like that. Well, in the schools now, I don't know, they had a furry in their school, and she goes to a little bit country school up in northeast Arkansas, but they had a furry, and she's tired of all that and stuff. And so he said, okay, Lainey, I'll agree to it, but if your grades ever fall, you got to go back, going back into school and stuff. Well, her being homeschooled, she works 3 jobs.
Oh,
she's
wow.
finishing her high school degree right now. With homeschooling, she's got almost her first whole year of college under her belt. She is a CNA. She works many shifts at the nursing home, and then she is a lifeguard at the pool, and she's still running barrels and rodeoing.
Oh, wow.
So she is very motivated, and I can't tell you how proud I am of her. Absolutely beautiful. Her and Caroline have been together. They're coming here today. That's how come we're having our Thanksgiving tonight.
Oh, okay.
But I'm leaving. I fly out at 6-something in the morning to go to Bandera, Texas, and then Rob and them are going to Kim's grandmother's. So anyway, we're just kind of all be split up. So we're having Thanksgiving tonight, but they are my everything. Okay. And then my sister and I have been Vanessa. I've spoke about her several times. It's been me and her for most of our lives, and we've had some rough rows to hoe, and we've hoed them, and we've got through it. And she is very, very important to me, and we've got each other's backs, and that's important to me. But that's kind of my family.
Good.
And then all of my rodeo kids, I have raised several boys here at my house. Yeah. And you were always welcome. That was one of the things. You had to stay in school and get an education, and you had to take care of stuff. And I've raised some good boys.
Yeah. Well, that's
some good boys.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Giving back to the rodeo community and family.
Yes,
family stands out in everything that you've talked about with us today. So I appreciate that, and thank you for that. Is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to? Maybe some advice, just anything. Anything stand out for you here today?
Lord, I really don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, rodeo is hard. It's a hard life. We're gypsies. That's what we are. It's hard. And you have to, do it for the right reasons. If you want to be a secretary for the right reasons and do it right. And, I think that's what so many people are getting into rodeo, but they're getting into, they're getting on bulls because they, it's a chick thing, and you'll get that. And, these, just so many things that aren't, these little girls that are running barrels, but they're not horsewomen, and they don't understand, the horsemanship that goes in with it and stuff. Do it right.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I like that. Do it right and do it for the right reasons. And, You know,
Right.
that's always a great question, you know, when to sit with a young person and say, so why are you doing this? Have you really
Right.
thought this through? And what kind of skills or attributes or whatever do you think you need to work on? You know,
Right.
because rodeo is nothing. It's hard, absolutely, and nothing if not constant learning. And you know, I heard something the other day that if you're worried about being embarrassed, you better not rodeo.
Oh,
Okay,
no, no.
because
Do
mistakes.
not.
No.
Yeah, because you are going. It is
Yeah.
a humbling sport.
Yes.
It is very humbling.
Yeah.
And no matter what involvement you are in it, it is very humbling.
Yep.
It is very humbling to be, whether you're an announcer and totally, mess up, or whether you're the pickup man and you look like Ned the First Reader, or you,
Yep.
you forgot your stopwatch, or, all of that. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
Very
Some
humbling.
of the speaking of humbling, do you ever have nightmares about dreaming about rodeo and the things that go ahead, share one.
Oh my gosh. And it's the rodeos that I've done 1,000 times, and they're easy, but they get, I dream about, getting to the IFR, and I don't even know who the contestants are. I can't tell you who's going to, where event we're going. I don't have any of the judges' sheets ready. I don't even have a pencil or a pen, and, I don't have clothes to wear. So that should be on the announcer stand at the IFR. I have all those strings.
Yeah.
All of those strings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I've had a few of those.
And then it'll be the little bittiest little podunk rodeo in the backyard, and I may dream that I didn't even know I was a secretary. Gosh, and here I showed up and I don't have nothing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm glad to hear it wasn't just me having those dreams, the dream of showing up and not, oh, you needed me to bring sound.
Yes.
Right.
Oh my! I didn't know. Yeah, you do. And then there's
absolutely.
sometimes when that dream becomes a reality.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Lord.
Yeah. Well, Danna, we have enjoyed this conversation today. I am so thankful for you coming on here, and really appreciate your time and the sharing.
Oh, I do. I mean, like I said, I have those stock contractors that, the Sam Swearingens, the Stuart Pletchers, those guys that mean the absolute world to me. I'll never be able to, the Chalk Donaldson, the Fay and Orville Donaldson.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go back and tell you a story about my very first rodeo I ever did with Fay and Orville that is like I wanted my mama when it was over. But those little things that I cannot tell you what them people mean to me, and how much, I owe it all to them.
You bet.
I owe it all to them.
Well, this has been a hoot, and I'm glad that you've come on. And I'm going to put, I think, we put cover art up on the podcast, and if it's all right with you, I'd like to put up that picture of us there in Benton, 2010.
Absolutely.
That would have been your first year coming north, and just a great picture up on my wall.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, enjoy your day. I know you got Thanksgiving tonight, so be safe.
Okay.
Take care of the family.
Thank you, Doug. You
All
too.
right.
You have a blessed Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I will.
Be safe.
You bet. Thank
Okay.
you. Mm-hmm.
Miss you.
Miss you too. All right. We hope that you enjoy our conversations as much as we enjoy having them. You can find us on the major podcast platforms, and we need your help. Rate us, review us. It helps us grow and improve our programming. And we invite you to check out our Beyond the Chutes Facebook page, BTC Beyond the Chutes, and our webpage, beyondthechutes.show. And we'd like to thank you to Parasite Systems for their support with our podcast. Now, my daughter Kathleen has tested 4 of her horses, and the results are in, and the findings have been very informative. You have heard of the high shedder horses. Well, she has too. Based on the Parasite System findings, she is on her way to better treatment to secure the health of her horses. Now, I encourage you to get your test kits on order. You can do that by going to parasitesystems.com. And we have a coupon that they've offered up, BTC023, for 50% off your test kits. And this is Beyond the Chutes on this great day with Danna Gann. Until next time, it's Doug Simcox. Thank you for listening.